Years ago, Luis Enrique said something to Kylian Mbappé that sounded insane at the time.
Yo te he leído que te gustaba Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan cogía de los huevos a todos sus compañeros y se ponía a defender como un hijo de puta. Tú tienes que dar ese ejemplo, primero como persona y como jugador, de ir a presionar. Vas a tener a Cubarsí, vas a ser tú el que marca a Cubarsí y a Ter Stegen. Y te vas a pegar todo el partido presionando a Cubarsí que no avance y presionando a Ter Stegen para que juegue rápido. Y volviendo rápido. ¿Para qué? Para ser un líder.
Enrique didn't question the talent. He questioned the cost of that talent if not paired with the right attitude. Kylian Mbappé might score a hat-trick tomorrow. He might win another golden boot. But those trophies are acting like a vaccine. They're masking the exact problem Luis Enrique warned us about years ago. Because after that conversation, something changed. And over the next 10 minutes, you'll see how that warning followed Mbappé from club to club, and how it kept resurfacing under different managers, and why today it's no longer something you can laugh off. And you'll find out exactly why Luis Enrique was right about Kylian Mbappé. On the 11th of January, Barcelona and Real Madrid met in the Spanish Super Cup final. Barcelona won 3-2. It was chaotic, entertaining, but the real moment had nothing to do with the scoreline. At full time, Xabi Alonso and Asensio asked Real Madrid's players to step forward and form a guard of honour for Barca. Everyone moved except Kylian Mbappé. He refused, then told his teammates to walk away. If you're a casual fan, this won't surprise you. Mbappé always needs to be the commander in the room. But this wasn't a one-off, it was a habit, one that became a pattern Luis Enrique saw coming long before anyone else. But before we get to his warning, there's one uncomfortable truth we need to face. Whether you like it or not, Kylian Mbappé is exactly as good as people say he is. And this is not a hypothetical idea, we mean factually. From the moment he arrived at AS Monaco, football understood what it was dealing with. Pace that didn't slow with the ball, finishing that didn't panic under pressure, and a calmness in decisive moments that most players never develop till later stages in their career. But Kylian had all of that. He was football's first real wonder kid since Ronaldo and Messi, who actually lived up to the hype. By 19, he had won a World Cup. By his early 20s, he was the face of Paris Saint-Germain. By the time he left Ligue 1, he was their all-time top scorer with 256 goals. Week in, week out, and without questioning him. And this is where Kylian's first problem lies. At PSG, this logic became law. And Ligue 1 titles and 4 Coupe de France, including a domestic quadruple in the 2019-20 season, while also leading the club to its first ever UEFA Champions League final in 2020. Managers came and went, yet Mbappé kept scoring, which is why what happened next went largely unnoticed. Because buried beneath the goals, buried beneath the numbers, to European control. And this is where most narratives go wrong. They jump straight to ego, to attitude, to personality. Luis Enrique didn't. He never questioned Mbappe's talent. He never questioned his ambition. He never questioned his right to be the star. Enrique wasn't speaking as a motivator. He was speaking as a diagnostician. And what he was diagnosing wasn't Mbappe's ability. It was the long-term sustainability of his attitude in the other areas of the pitch. That warning didn't land then. But now it's all beginning to make sense. By the time Luis Enrique arrived at Paris Saint-Germain, Kylian Mbappé was already bigger than the club. He wasn't just the best player in the squad, he was the project. Goals, marketing, identity, everything revolved around him. And on the surface, there was no reason to question it. Mbappé was scoring at an absurd rate. He was winning games almost by himself. Domestically, PSG were untouchable. Individually, he was entering his prime. Which is why what Luis Enrique did next was so unusual. He didn't bench him, he didn't criticise him in public, he didn't question his talent. Instead, he sat him down and told him something most managers would never dare to say to a player like that being great wasn't enough. Luis Enrique didn't frame it as a tactical issue, he framed it as a leadership one.
Yo te he leído que te gustaba Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan cogía de los huevos a todos sus compañeros y se ponía a defender como un hijo de puta. Tú tienes que dar ese ejemplo, primero como persona y como jugador, de ir a presionar. Vas a tener a Cubarsí, vas a ser tú el que marca a Cubarsí y a Ter Stegen. y te vas a pegar todo el partido presionando a Kovacic que no avance y presionando a Ter Stegen para que juegue rápido y volviendo rápido. ¿Para qué? Para ser un líder.
He brought up Michael Jordan, not because of scoring, not because of superstardom, but because Jordan defended when it was time to, because he demanded effort, because he set the standard even when the ball wasn't in his hands. And then Enrique made his real point.
Porque tú piensas como que tú nos tienes que marcar goles. Claro, tú eres un fenómeno, un top mundial, ninguna duda. Pero yo no me vale eso. Un líder de verdad es que cuando no nos puedes ayudar con los goles, porque el otro día tenías a dos jugadores de alto nivel para ti y no puedes ayudarnos, tú nos ayudas en todo lo defensivo. Coges así y dices, chavales, línea defensiva, quedaros ahí 4, que yo voy a coger a mis dos compañeros, porque si tú solo presionas, es la hostia. Pero si encima coges a Usman y a Colomwani o a Barcola o a Gonzalo o a Marco Asensio y te pones tú como ejemplo a presionar, ¿sabes lo que tenemos? Una puta máquina de equipo. Eso es lo que yo quiero que hagas tú, como líder aquí, los 2 meses que te quedan. Yo quiero que te vayas de aquí por la puerta grande, Kiki, ninguna duda, pero te lo tienes que ganar. Y te lo tienes que ganar no atacando, atacando ya sé que eres Dios, atacando no hay nadie como tú, ya lo sé. Pero el día que tú no ataques, tienes que ser el mejor jugador de la historia defendiendo. Eso es un líder, eso es Michael Jordan. ¿Sí?
Sí.
¿Te queda claro?
Sí.
Pues ya te explicaré el ataque mañana.
A leader isn't the player who decides games when everything is going well. A leader is the one who carries the team when things stop working. That was the warning. When PSG lose the ball, Mbappe didn't press. When the team dropped into shape, he stayed high. When transitions broke down, others ran for him. And one player doing that doesn't break a team overnight, but it shifts responsibility. Someone has to cover, then someone else has to help. Then the structure starts bending. Luis Enrique understood that football at the highest level doesn't collapse because of tactics alone. It comes down to little details like this, and that's why his message wasn't about goals. But if you're looking for proof of whether he was right or not, just take a look at their sextuple winning campaign. The most notorious features his attackers were known for was their effort in defence. The likes of Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia were all stars in their own right, but they all took Enrique's words to heart. And look what it turned them into, especially Dembele, football's greatest comeback story, from being someone tagged as a failed wonder kid to the best player in the world. Enrique's words to Mbappe were about what happens when you're not scoring. He told Mbappe that if 2 defenders neutralise him, he still has to contribute, he still has to defend, he still has to lead. He knows just how good Mbappe is, and perhaps this Ballon d'Or would have been Mbappe's if he'd just listened. But the crazy part is, at the time, most people ignored it. Mbappe kept scoring, PSG won the Ligue 1. But Enrique wasn't talking about the next match, he was talking about the next stage of Mbappe's career, especially with him on the way to Madrid at the time. He even said it himself, that he wanted Mbappe to leave through the big door without regrets. Looking back now, that line matters, because Luis Enrique wasn't trying to control Mbappe, he was trying to prepare him. But this conversation didn't end at PSG. It followed Mbappe into his next chapter. Kylian Mbappé has played under 9 different managers in 10 years. That number should tell you something disturbing. But the crazy part is these aren't nobodies. Unai Emery, Thomas Tuchel, Mauricio Pochettino, Christophe Galtier, Luis Enrique, Xabi Alonso, Carlo Ancelotti, Leonardo Jardim, Alvaro Arbeloa. These are different managers from different leagues across different eras, yet the same story keeps resurfacing. At Monaco, Mbappé was young, electric, untouchable on the pitch, but behind the scenes, cracks were already forming. In 2017, reports emerged that Mbappé had been banned from first-team training after an angry altercation with teammate and veteran Andre Raggi. He was the youngest player in the squad, and already he didn't want to run like the rest. He was feeling entitled and thought he could bat it out with a veteran. The talent was obvious, the discipline wasn't. But Mbappé didn't learn from it all, and once PSG's interest became real, something shifted. Mbappe's work rate dropped, he stopped putting his efforts, and Monaco knew what was coming. He didn't fight to stay, he didn't grow into leadership, he left. Paris didn't just sign a superstar, they handed him power. Unai Emery nurtured him, but even he noticed some inconsistencies with his behaviours. But it was under Thomas Tuchel that everything actually unravelled. With Tuchel, PSG were actually good, structured, balanced. Tuchel took them to a Champions League final in 2020, something no PSG manager had ever done before. But behind that run was tension. Tuchel wanted discipline, he wanted pressing, he wanted accountability. And at moments, he wanted to drop Mbappe, not because of form, but because of attitude. The club refused. Not only did they refuse, they forced Tuchel to apologise to Mbappe. That was the moment the hierarchy flipped. The manager stopped being the authority, the star became untouchable. Tuchel left soon after, and immediately he won the Champions League with Chelsea. Then Mauricio Pochettino arrived to restore harmony. Instead, he lost the room. Mbappe bossed him around, decisions went through him, the football bent toward him, and slowly Pochettino stopped leading. He managed personalities instead of systems, and after delivering a bad season himself, he too was gone. The same happened with Christophe Galtier, who, contrary to the reports, didn't fail tactically, he failed politically. Mbappe wasn't happy with his role, it didn't match the promises made during his contract renewal, and soon enough, Galtier was gone too. But Luis Enrique was the only one who actually said the entire thing out loud. Michael Jordan defended like a madman, he told him. You don't get to lead without suffering. Mbappe didn't change. Luis Enrique didn't bend. So Mbappe left. And then something even Mbappe couldn't predict happened. Luis Enrique won the Champions League and the sextuple with no superstars, no egos, just team players. That was an irony. As for Real Madrid, to be honest, when he arrived, they didn't need Mbappe. They already had a winning core. They had won Champions Leagues with structure, sacrifice and balance. Mbappe arrived. He scored. A lot. But with him in the system, the rhythm changed. The press broke. The system bent. The defensive commitment disappeared at the top. Carlo Ancelotti didn't lose his job because of Mbappe, but the harmony he built never fully returned. Then came Xavi Alonso, a system coach, a pressing coach, a discipline-first manager. And it didn't last. The most revealing moment wasn't tactical, it was Mbappe ordering Xavi not to perform a guard of honour. And Xavi obeyed. That's when it was over. He had lost the dressing room. The truth remains that Mbappe scores everywhere. That's never been the issue. But everywhere he goes, he becomes the unquestioned centre, and the same things happen. Managers lose authority. Systems soften. Responsibility shifts away from him, and eventually the coach leaves. The one exception is France, and it's because international football doesn't revolve around him. The structure is bigger, the shirt is heavier, and when Mbappe is one of many, France shine. But at club level, when Mbappe is the star, the team glows briefly. Luis Enrique saw it early, others learned it late, and now, after 10 years, 9 managers, and countless warnings, the question isn't whether Mbappe is great, the question is whether greatness, without responsibility, can ever build something that lasts. Luis Enrique wanted a leader. What the data shows is a solo artist. The Guard of Honour incident wasn't just rivalry, it wasn't emotion, it was the final proof that the ego had outgrown the club. Enrique wasn't right because Mbappe stopped scoring. He was right because he understood something deeper. A team of 10 workers and 1 superstar can win matches, but it eventually stops winning the trophies that actually matter. Goals win games, but defense wins titles. And at this moment, Mbappe is one of the reasons Madrid aren't anywhere close right now. Now, if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to AsWatch for more stories like this, and click the next video on your screen because this conversation doesn't end here.